The space around Earth was quiet. Satellites floated like lazy fish in a wide black sea. Among them, a small repair ship moved slowly, guided by a single man, Tom. Tom was not a hero or a soldier. He was a simple space engineer who liked quiet work. He spent his days fixing old machines and listening to soft music while floating in space. It gave him peace, but on this day, something strange happened. He had just finished tightening a loose panel on a weather satellite when his headset crackled with static. That was normal. But then, through the static, he heard something that was not normal. A voice. It was soft at first, gentle. A whisper. The language was strange, but Tom understood it, like it was meant for him. "Can you hear me? I am lost. I cannot return until you have claimed me fully, body, heart, and soul, by making me yours." Tom froze. His hand hovered over the control panel. He looked around. There was no one. No ships, just stars and silence. The voice continued. "I am close. I am waiting. Human, can you find me?" Then the signal stopped. Tom blinked. He checked his systems. There was no incoming message logged. No record of a signal. It was as if the voice had never existed. But he knew what he heard. He quickly pulled up the satellite's signal records. Nothing. Yet a strange pulse had come from the far side of the moon, just seconds before the voice. It wasn't a normal communication wave. It was old and alien. Tom sat in silence for a long time, staring at the data. Most people would have reported it and gone home. But something about the voice stayed with him. It wasn't just words. It was emotion. It was sadness, hope, longing, and it was calling him. He typed a few commands and rerouted his ship toward the moon. It wasn't in his schedule. It wasn't approved. But he had a feeling this was more important than a broken satellite. As his ship moved closer to the moon's dark side, the stars seemed to shift, like they were watching. He didn't tell Earth Control. He didn't want to explain something he couldn't prove. After 20 minutes, he found it. A small crater with shiny metal inside. A ship, not human, half buried in dust and rocks. It had strange markings on it, glowing faint blue even in the dark. Tom landed nearby and put on his suit. As he stepped out, the voice returned in his headset, clearer this time. "You came. I hoped you would." His heart beat faster. He walked to the ship. A small door opened with a hiss. Inside, it was quiet and warm. Lights glowed gently along the walls. In the center, floating above a circular platform, was a figure. She looked almost human. Pale skin, silver hair flowing like it was underwater, eyes closed. She seemed asleep, but alive. Not a robot. Not a dream. The voice spoke again, now clearly coming from her. "My name is Ray. I am from far beyond your stars. I have chosen you, human. You are the key to my return." Tom stared at her, not knowing what to say. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Because only a human heart can finish the bond," Ray said. "And yours heard my call." Tom didn't understand everything, but he felt something deep in his chest. He knew this moment would change his life. And somehow, he wasn't afraid. Tom stood inside the strange ship, his eyes locked on the floating figure named Ray. The air inside felt calm, almost like it was alive. Soft lights moved across the ceiling like stars. The ship did not feel broken, even though it was half buried in the moon's rocky surface. Ray's voice, smooth and gentle, filled the room again. "You are wondering why I am here, why I chose you." Tom nodded slowly, still unsure if he was dreaming. "I was exiled," Ray said. "Not because I broke a rule, but because I believed in something my people fear." Her body floated gently in the air, like she was asleep but still aware. Tom took a step closer. "What do they fear?" "They fear your kind," she said. "Humans." That made Tom stop. He had heard stories, alien rumors, strange lights in space, but never anything like this. They think humans are too wild, too emotional, too dangerous. But I believe something else. I believe your emotions are not weakness. They are strength. They are the missing piece. Tom looked around. So you came here to prove that? Yes, Ray said. There is a sacred right among my people. A bond. It links two beings across space and thought. It can only be completed with full trust, body, heart, and soul. Her voice grew softer. But no one has ever dared to try it with a human. Until me. Tom took a deep breath. Everything felt strange and heavy, like the moment between dreaming and waking up. What happens if the bond isn't completed? He asked. Ray's light dimmed slightly. Then I fade. Slowly. I cannot return home. My ship cannot fly. My life force weakens without the bond. And if I am not claimed, I vanish. Tom felt a strange feeling in his chest. It wasn't just fear. It was something deeper, like a small thread had tied him to her the moment he heard that voice. He looked at Ray, floating quietly in her ship. She looked peaceful, but also alone. You said I'm the key, Tom said. But I'm no one special. That's where you're wrong, Ray replied. You are human. That makes you special in ways you do not see yet. Tom looked out the small window of the ship. Earth was a small blue ball far away now. Everything he knew, his job, his small apartment, his quiet life, felt distant. What do I have to do? He asked. Ray's body slowly floated down to the floor. Her feet touched the ground for the first time. We begin by learning each other, she said. Trust must be built. Connection must grow. The bond is not forced. It must come freely. Tom watched as she walked forward, steady but weak. She looked tired. May I come with you? She asked. He blinked. You mean to Earth? Yes. I must be close to you, and I must learn your world. Only then can the bond truly begin. Tom hesitated. Bringing an alien to Earth, he'd get in trouble, maybe even arrested. But when he looked into her glowing silver eyes, he felt something unspoken. He gave a slow nod. Okay, come with me. Ray smiled, and it was warm like sunlight. The ship's walls began to shift and close, tucking everything into a small core that floated behind her. It followed her like a loyal pet. As they stepped back into Tom's small repair ship, he realized something big had started. He didn't fully understand it yet, but he knew his life would never be the same. Tom's small repair ship hummed quietly as it made its way back to Earth. The stars twinkled far away, and the silence between him and Ray was comforting. She sat across from him, her glowing eyes watching him with a look that seemed both calm and searching. She wasn't like any person he had ever met. There was a weight in her presence, something ancient, something powerful. Yet there was also a softness about her, like she was learning how to be human. Ray had been quiet during the journey, but Tom knew she was processing everything. She was learning about Earth, about humans, through every glance, every question she asked, no matter how small. As they approached Earth's atmosphere, Tom looked over at Ray. So, what happens now? He asked. His voice was unsure, but he had to know. There was too much at stake now. Too much that felt bigger than anything he'd ever imagined. Ray's eyes met his, and her voice was calm but serious. Now we begin. The rite of joining must be completed, but it cannot be rushed. We need time. The bond is not something that can be forced. Tom nodded. He didn't know what to expect, but he had already decided. He wasn't going to turn back. There was something in Ray's words that made him feel like he was part of something far greater than just fixing machines and going through the motions of his simple life. As the ship entered Earth's atmosphere and began its descent, Ray spoke again, this time with more urgency. There are those who will try to stop us. My people believe that I have made a mistake by coming to you. The Galactic Council. They will send others to bring me back. To stop this. Tom's brow furrowed. Why would they do that? Aren't you part of their society? I was, once. But I broke their rules, Ray said softly. I chose to believe in something different. I chose to believe in you, humanity. They fear what you can become. They fear the strength of your hearts. They fear the unknown. Tom felt a chill in the air. He had never thought of humans like that. To him, humanity was just a group of people trying to live, trying to make a living, just like anyone else. But to the stars, to the far reaches of space, humans were something to be feared. He turned his attention back to the controls. His mind raced. The idea of alien forces trying to stop him. And Ray felt like something out of a storybook. But Ray's words weren't stories. They were real. The danger was real. What do we do? He asked. Ray was silent for a moment, her glowing eyes staring ahead at the planet below. Earth. It was so far, yet so close. And this was where everything would happen. We must stay ahead of them. The Galactic Union has agents, sophisticated ones who can track us, but we can outsmart them. I know how to hide in the shadows of the galaxy. And you are the key. Your heart, your human instincts, they will guide us. Tom didn't know what to say. He wasn't a fighter. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who liked to fix things. But somehow, Ray made him believe in something bigger, something more important than just fixing machines, something that could change the future of humanity and the future of the stars. But you must also understand, Ray continued, if we fail, if we cannot complete the bond, I will fade away, and the choice to believe in you will be lost. Tom's stomach tightened. He didn't want to fail her. He didn't want to fail the world. Then we won't fail, he said, more to himself than to Ray. Ray gave a soft smile. There was something peaceful in the way she looked at him, something that made him feel like they weren't alone. They were in this together. The ship finally landed on Earth. It was just a small landing pad outside of a quiet town, hidden far from the government's eyes. Tom quickly moved to gather his things, but as he looked over at Ray, he saw that she wasn't just following him. She was learning, watching. She was seeing the world through new eyes. And with each moment, Tom realized that this bond, this strange, impossible connection between them, wasn't just about her coming to Earth. It was about something much deeper, something that would change everything. Tom stepped out of the ship and into the quiet town, his mind racing. He had just brought an alien being to Earth, someone who was on the run from forces that could destroy her. And possibly him too. The weight of the situation pressed on him. He had no idea what to do next, but Ray, standing beside him, seemed calm, even serene, as if she had been preparing for this moment her entire life. The small, hidden landing pad was just outside a tiny town in the countryside, far from government eyes. The town seemed peaceful, a place where nothing out of the ordinary ever happened. It was the perfect place to keep a low profile. As Tom led Ray into a small cabin he had rented out in secret, he looked at her again. She was studying everything, from the trees swaying in the wind to the small animals running through the grass. She was fascinated by the way humans lived, by the simple things that most people took for granted. "You're really different from anyone I've ever met," Tom said quietly, breaking the silence. Ray turned her head to look at him. Her silver eyes glowed softly, even in the daylight. There was something about her that felt otherworldly, yet her curiosity about the world made her seem so human. "I am not like you, Tom. I know that. But I chose you because I saw something in humans that no one else could see. Your hearts, your souls, they are pure and strong, but they are also fragile. You have the power to connect in ways that no other species can." Tom wasn't sure what to say. He had never thought of himself as anything special, just an ordinary man doing an ordinary job. But hearing Ray's words, he started to wonder. Maybe there was something more to him. Maybe there was something more to humans than he had realized. Ray walked over to the window, staring out at the landscape. She seemed deep in thought. Tom watched her, feeling both confused and protective. He wanted to help her. He wanted to prove to the galaxy that humanity was more than just a strange, dangerous species, but he had no idea how to begin. "The bond between us must begin," Ray said, breaking his thoughts. "But it cannot be rushed. The connection takes time. You must trust me, Tom. And I must trust you." Tom took a deep breath. He had been waiting for her to explain what he needed to do. It sounded like something out of a dream, but Ray was real. And so was the bond she spoke of. "What do we do?" he asked. "We start with small steps," she replied. "We will spend time together, learn from each other. Every shared moment will bring us closer to the bond. And when the time is right, the bond will complete itself." Tom wasn't sure how a bond could complete itself, but he knew he couldn't walk away now. Not when Ray's life and the future of humanity were on the line. Over the next few days, Tom and Ray spent their time exploring the small town. Tom showed her the quiet streets, the little shops, and the places where people gathered. Ray was fascinated by everything. She asked questions about human life, about emotions, about love, and about fear. As they spent more time together, Tom began to notice something strange. Ray seemed to be changing. Not in the way her body looked. She was still the same ethereal being. But in the way she acted. She was becoming more human. Her smile grew more genuine, her laughter warmer, and her eyes sparkled with a kind of wonder that made Tom's heart race. They would sit together at night, talking about their lives. Tom's childhood, his simple dreams, and Ray's distant past, full of ancient stars and distant galaxies. It was a strange connection, like two pieces of a puzzle slowly fitting together. But there was something deeper too, something that Tom couldn't explain. The more time he spent with Ray, the more he felt drawn to her, like a force he couldn't resist. "I feel it too," Ray said one evening as they sat under the stars. "The connection is beginning. I can feel your heart, Tom. I can feel your thoughts, your fears, your hopes. It is strange, but it is beautiful." Tom looked at her, his breath catching in his chest. He had never felt so close to another person, let alone an alien. But in that moment, he realized that they weren't so different after all. Ray was learning about humanity, but he was also learning about her, about what it meant to be a part of something greater than himself. And with every passing day, the bond between them grew stronger. The days seemed to blur together for Tom and Ray. Each morning brought new questions, new discoveries, and a deepening connection that neither of them fully understood. The small town remained quiet, a perfect place for them to continue their journey, hidden from the world, yet constantly aware of the growing bond between them. Tom had never imagined his life would take such a strange turn. A few weeks ago, he was simply a space engineer, fixing satellites and working in silence. Now he was helping an alien, someone from beyond the stars, navigate a new world and a new way of life. Ray, who had come to Earth seeking a bond that could change everything, was slowly becoming someone he couldn't imagine living without. One evening, as they sat on the porch of the small cabin, Tom looked at Ray. She was gazing at the stars, her silver hair glowing in the soft light of the setting sun. "How do you do it?" he asked. "How do you stay so calm with everything that's happening? The Galactic Council, the others who want to stop us." Ray turned to him, her eyes soft and steady. "I have learned to be patient, Tom. Time is a strange thing for me. I have lived longer than you can imagine. But the connection between us, this bond, is different. It does not follow the rules of time. It follows the rhythm of hearts." Tom listened carefully. Ray's words were filled with wisdom, but also with a quiet sadness. He could feel that she was not just talking about herself. She was talking about the entire galaxy. Her people feared the power of the bond, the strength that humans had in their hearts. And now, it seemed, they were willing to stop her from completing it. "But why don't they see what I see?" Tom asked, his voice tinged with frustration. You're not dangerous. You're just trying to survive. Because they do not understand your potential, Tom. They do not believe that a human heart can hold the power to change the universe. And they fear what could happen if you are allowed to grow, to truly connect. The weight of her words hung in the air between them. Tom couldn't understand it all, but he felt something stir within him. The thought that humanity, his own species, was seen as something so powerful, so different, was both terrifying and inspiring. But we can't be stopped, Ray continued. We must believe in ourselves, in this bond, and we must make sure they do not break it before it is complete. Tom stood up, pacing in front of her. The idea of a distant group of beings trying to stop them was overwhelming. He had no experience in space politics, no idea how to fight back against an entire galaxy. But there was one thing he knew for sure. Ray was right. The bond between them was something real, something that couldn't be ignored. We won't let them stop us, Tom said, his voice firm. We'll find a way to finish this, to prove to them that humanity is more than just a species they can control. Ray smiled softly. She stepped closer to him, her presence radiating warmth. That is why I chose you, Tom. You are not afraid of what lies ahead. You are willing to fight for what is right. That is the strength of humanity. The bond between them pulsed again, stronger now, as if responding to Tom's words. He could feel it in his chest, something pulling him closer to Ray, something that went beyond words. It was like the universe itself was aligning around them, guiding them towards something bigger than themselves. Suddenly, the soft hum of a ship reached his ears. Tom's heart skipped a beat. He looked up, eyes scanning the horizon. In the distance, a small ship appeared, moving toward them. Ray's eyes widened. They found us, she whispered. The agents are here. Tom's body tensed. He didn't know what to do, but he wasn't going to let them take Ray. Not after everything they had been through. Stay close to me, Ray said, her voice low. I will protect you, Tom, but you must trust me. As the ship neared, Tom could feel the tension in the air. His mind raced. What were they going to do? How could they fight back against the Galactic Council's agents? But in that moment, all he could think about was Ray. He had made a promise, and he wasn't going to break it. The ship landed softly on the ground, its engines quiet as it touched down. From the open hatch, two figures emerged. They were tall, humanoid but not human, with dark, shimmering armor that seemed to reflect the stars. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but the cold, calculating way they moved told Tom everything he needed to know. They had come to stop them. The two figures stepped out of the ship, their tall bodies encased in sleek, dark armor that shimmered under the moonlight. The air seemed to grow colder as they approached, their movements smooth and deliberate. Tom's heart raced, his thoughts spinning. This was no longer just about a strange alien encounter. It was about survival. Ray stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the approaching figures. She was calm, almost serene, but Tom could sense the tension radiating from her. She was ready, but even she knew the stakes had just gotten much higher. They're here, Ray said softly, her voice steady. The agents of the Galactic Council. They will try to take me back, to stop the bond from forming. Tom clenched his fists. He wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't going to let anyone take Ray from him. Not after everything they had shared. The agents stopped a few feet away, their helmets reflecting the moonlight. One of them raised a hand, signaling for Tom and Ray to stay still. The other agent's voice came through a speaker in his helmet, cold and mechanical. Ray, you are under arrest for breaking the laws of the Galactic Council. You are to return with us immediately. Ray didn't flinch. She stood tall, her silver eyes unwavering. I will not return, she said. I have made my choice. I believe in the strength of humanity, and I will not let you take that from me. Tom watched the exchange, feeling a sense of helplessness. He didn't know much about the Galactic Council, but from the way the agent spoke, he could tell they were powerful, They had the authority to control entire star systems, but Ray wasn't afraid of them, and that gave Tom hope. The first agent stepped forward, his voice cold and commanding. "You do not understand, Ray. You cannot bond with a human. It is against the natural order. You will come with us, or we will be forced to use force." Ray's eyes flashed with a mix of sadness and defiance. "You think I do not know the risks," she replied. "You think I do not understand what this means. I have already made my decision. I will not allow you to take that away." Tom took a step forward, his heart pounding. He didn't know what to say, but he knew he couldn't just stand by and watch. He had promised Ray he would protect her, and he wasn't about to break that promise. "I'm not going to let you take her," Tom said, his voice steady but filled with determination. He wasn't sure what kind of fight he could put up against these agents, but he wasn't going to back down. The agents turned their attention to him, their helmets tilting slightly as if considering his words. "You are foolish, human," the second agent said. "You have no idea what you are dealing with. You cannot stop us. This is not a fight you can win." Ray stepped forward, her gaze never leaving the agents. She raised her hand, and a soft glow emanated from her fingertips. The agents froze, their eyes narrowing. "You do not understand what you are dealing with either," Ray said, her voice low and full of power. "I am not just any alien. I am more than you can comprehend. And this bond we share, Tom and I, it is something that can never be broken." Tom felt a strange warmth spread through him, the bond with Ray growing stronger. He could feel her power, her resolve, and in that moment, he realized that they were not just two individuals. They were connected, linked in a way that defied logic, a bond that transcended everything the agents knew. The agents seemed to hesitate, as if unsure of what to do. The tension in the air was thick, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Finally, the first agent spoke again, his voice filled with frustration. "You have no idea what you are inviting, Ray. If you complete this bond, there will be consequences. You are not only putting your life at risk, you are putting the entire galaxy in danger." Ray's expression softened, but there was no fear in her eyes. "I am not afraid," she said quietly. "The galaxy has always feared what it does not understand. But humanity has the strength to change everything, to break the chains that bind us all." Tom's heart raced. He didn't fully understand the stakes, but he understood this. Ray wasn't alone. She had chosen him, and he had chosen her. Together, they were stronger than anything the galaxy could throw at them. The agents exchanged glances, as if debating their next move. For a moment, everything was silent. And then, without another word, the agents turned and walked back toward their ship, leaving Tom and Ray standing in the quiet of the night. The ship lifted off, disappearing into the stars. Tom stood there, his mind reeling. They had won. For now. Tom nodded, his heart still racing. This was just the beginning. The road ahead would be difficult, but he was ready. He had Ray by his side, and that was all that mattered. The quiet evening had returned to the small cabin, but Tom's mind was far from peaceful. He sat at the table, his hands clasped tightly together, thinking about the encounter with the agents. He couldn't shake the feeling that the confrontation was only the beginning. Ray was sitting across from him, her silver eyes reflecting the soft glow of the lamp. She seemed calm, as always, but Tom could sense the tension still lingering in the air between them. She had been through so much already, and yet it was clear that the worst was still to come. "What happens now?" Tom asked, breaking the silence. He couldn't keep the worry out of his voice. "They'll come again, won't they? The agents, they won't stop until they've taken you back." Ra looked at him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then, her lips curved into a small, reassuring smile. "They may come again, yes, but I will not return willingly, Tom. I have chosen this path, and I will face whatever challenges come my way." Tom leaned forward, his heart racing. He didn't know how to fight a galaxy-wide force, especially when the agents seemed so powerful, so determined. But one thing was clear to him. He would do whatever it took to protect Ray, and to protect the bond they were building. "But how can we stop them?" he asked. "We can't just hide forever. There has to be something more we can do." Ray's gaze softened, and she reached out, her hand gently resting on his. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. The bond between them was growing stronger every day, and with each touch, it felt like they were becoming more in tune with each other. "We will have to face them together," Ray said, "but not with violence. The Galactic Council is strong, yes, but it is not invincible. There are others who do not agree with their methods, others who believe in the strength of the bond we are forming." Tom raised an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. He had never heard of any groups opposing the Council. Everything he knew about space was from his work on satellites and the occasional glimpse into the larger universe. He had no idea there were factions within the galaxy itself. "Who are they?" he asked, eager for more information. Ray hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. Then, with a deep breath, she spoke again. "They are known as the Free Seekers. They are individuals and groups who believe in the freedom of choice, in the right to live without the control of the Council. They see what the bond can do, and they know that humanity is not just a species to be controlled. They know you have the potential to change everything." Tom felt a surge of hope. He had always felt that humanity was capable of more than the rest of the galaxy gave them credit for. But hearing that there were others who shared that belief, others who might be able to help, was a small but important step forward. Ray nodded. "Greater than yes, but it will not be easy. The Council is powerful, and they have eyes everywhere. The Free Seekers operate in the shadows, hidden from the reach of the Council. But I know we can find them." Tom stood up, a sense of determination filling him. Ray had made her choice. She had chosen to fight for something greater, and now he was part of that fight. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the future of humanity, about proving to the galaxy that they were more than just a pawn in a bigger game. "We'll do whatever it takes," Tom said, his voice firm. Ray stood too, stepping closer to him. For a moment, they just stood there, the connection between them almost palpable. Tom could feel the strength in her, the resolve that burned within her, and he realized something. He wasn't just following her anymore. They were walking this path together. "We will," Ray agreed softly. "But remember, Tom, the road ahead will not be easy. We will face challenges, and we will face risks. But through it all, the bond between us will grow stronger. And when the time comes, it will be the key to everything." Tom nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had never imagined his life would take such a turn, but now that it had, he wasn't going to back down. He would stand with Ray, no matter the cost. Just then, there was a soft knock on the door. Both Tom and Ray turned toward it, their senses heightened. Tom's hand instinctively went to the sidearm he had started carrying, the one he had never wanted to use. Ray, however, seemed calm. She walked toward the door, her steps light and confident. When she opened it, a figure stood in the doorway, a man with a weathered face and a long coat. His eyes met hers, and in them, Tom saw something familiar, the same sense of determination that he felt in his own heart. "I'm here to help," the man said, his voice low and steady. Ray stepped aside, letting him in. Tom's heart raced again. The path ahead was uncertain, but this was the beginning of something much larger than he had ever imagined. The man stepped into the cabin, his coat trailing behind him as he moved with purpose. Tom watched him carefully, his instincts on alert. There was something about the man's presence, something that made Tom trust him, even without knowing anything about him. Ray, however, seemed to recognize him immediately. She gave him a small nod and stepped aside to let him in. "This is Jorek," Ray said, her voice calm but with an edge of urgency. "He is one of the Free Seekers I mentioned. He has information that could help us find the others." Tom glanced at Ray, then back at Jorek. He wasn't sure what to expect, but there was a quiet strength about the man that was hard to ignore. Jarek's eyes were sharp, and his face, though lined with age, held a sense of determination that matched Ray's own. Jarek turned to Tom, his gaze assessing. "You must be Tom," he said, his voice low but firm. "I've heard much about you. Ray speaks highly of you." Tom nodded, not sure what to say. It felt strange to be talking to someone like this, someone who had been in the shadows of the galaxy, someone who had seen things Tom could never imagine. But if Ray trusted him, then that was enough for Tom. "What do we need to do?" Tom asked, his voice steady. He didn't have time for small talk. The agents would be back, and the council was still out there, watching them. Jarek's eyes flickered to Ray, then back to Tom. There was a moment of silence before he spoke again. "We need to find the rest of the Free Seekers. We have allies who are willing to fight with us, but they are scattered. The council's reach is long, and we cannot be certain who is loyal and who might be working with them." Tom's mind raced. Finding these allies, these Free Seekers, would not be easy. It was clear that they had to be careful. Too many people had been loyal to the council for far too long. But the more Tom thought about it, the more he realized that this was their only chance. Ray was right. The bond between them had to be protected, and if the Free Seekers were the key, then they had to find them. "How do we find them?" Tom asked. He had to know more. Jarek paused, his expression thoughtful. "There are signals, hidden messages that only those who know what to look for can see. The Free Seekers have been leaving them all over the galaxy, but only a few people, those who are trained, can decode them. That's where I come in. I've been tracking these messages for years, but there's a problem. The council is hunting down anyone who tries to help." Tom felt a chill run through him. The more Jarek spoke, the more he realized how high the stakes were. This wasn't just about Ray anymore. This was about freedom. It was about standing up to an empire that wanted to control everything. Ray stepped closer to Tom, her hand brushing against his. He could feel the warmth of the bond between them, stronger than ever before. "Jarek is one of the few who has managed to stay under the radar," Ray said softly. "He's a skilled tracker, and he has access to information that we don't." Tom turned to Jarek, his expression serious. "So, what's the next step?" he asked. He was ready for whatever came next. Jarek looked at him, his eyes narrowing in thought. "We need to leave this place. The council knows we're here, and we're not safe anymore. We'll head for a nearby station, where we can pick up more information. From there, we'll find the next signal." Tom nodded. It sounded risky, but there was no other choice. They couldn't stay here, not when the council was still looking for them. "When do we leave?" Tom asked, determination in his voice. "Immediately," Jarek replied, his tone resolute. "The longer we wait, the more dangerous it becomes. The council won't stop until they have Ray." Ray's expression was unreadable, but Tom could see the strength in her eyes. She wasn't afraid, at least, not in the way most people would be. She was determined, and Tom knew that as long as they stuck together, they had a chance. The three of them moved quickly, gathering what little they had and preparing to leave. Tom was still processing everything that had happened, but one thing was clear. This was no longer just about the bond. It was about fighting for something greater, something that could change the future of the galaxy. They exited the cabin, and the cool night air hit them. Tom took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what was coming. It was a new chapter, one filled with uncertainty, but also with hope. The journey ahead would not be easy, but Tom knew that with Ray and Jarek by his side, they had a chance to make a difference. As they walked toward the ship that would take them to their next destination, Tom looked up at the stars. He didn't know where this journey would lead, but one thing was certain. He was no longer just a passenger in his own life. He was a part of something much bigger now. The journey had been long and tense. As the small ship glided through the vastness of space, Tom sat in the cockpit beside Ray and Jarek. The stars outside seemed like distant promises, offering both hope and uncertainty. Every turn they made, every signal they followed, led them closer to the truth, but also deeper into danger. The council was still on their tail, and there was no telling when the next confrontation would come. Ray was focused, her eyes scanning the data coming through the ship's systems. Tom had never seen her more determined. She was used to danger, used to being hunted, but now, with the bond growing stronger between them, he felt like there was a deeper purpose behind everything they were doing. "How much longer until we reach the station?" Tom asked, his voice breaking the silence. Ray glanced at him, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Greater than not long. We'll be there within the hour. After that, we'll make contact with the free seekers who are stationed there. They can help us find the next signal." Tom nodded, trying to steady his nerves. He knew that the more time they spent on this mission, the higher the risks became. The council wasn't just a political body. It was a force of control, and they wouldn't stop until they had Ray back. It was becoming clear that their mission wasn't just about stopping the council. It was about something far more important. Suddenly, the ship's console beeped, pulling them out of their thoughts. Ray's fingers moved swiftly over the controls, her attention fully on the screen. "What is it?" Tom asked, his pulse quickening. Ray's eyes narrowed. "Greater than, it's a message. From a free seeker group we've been tracking. They've sent a warning." Jarek, who had been quietly monitoring the situation from behind them, stepped forward. "Greater than, what does it say?" Ray's fingers flew over the console again, decoding the message quickly. After a moment, she spoke, her voice low and serious. "The council is closing in on the station. They've already sent a fleet." Tom's stomach sank. He had feared this moment was coming, but hearing the words made it feel all too real. The council wasn't just trying to stop them. They were hunting them down. And now, the free seekers' only hope was in jeopardy. "How long until they arrive?" Jarek asked, his voice calm but tense. Ray quickly scanned the information. "Greater than, less than 30 minutes. We'll need to be quick." Tom looked at Ray, then at Jarek. The decision was clear. They could either continue with the plan and risk facing the council's fleet, or they could turn back. But Tom knew there was no turning back. The bond between him and Ray wasn't just about saving her anymore. It was about fighting for their future and the future of humanity. The galaxy couldn't be allowed to fall under the control of the council. "We can't stop now," Tom said, his voice firm. "We have to keep going. We can't let the council win." Ray's gaze softened as she turned to him, her silver eyes full of both gratitude and determination. "Greater than, you're right. We can't. We've come too far to stop now." Jarek nodded, his expression serious. "Greater than, then we need to get to that station. We'll have to be strategic. The council won't give up easily, and we can't risk being caught in the open." The ship's engines hummed louder as Ray adjusted their course, setting them on a direct path to the station. They were going to have to move fast, and every decision they made from here on out would be crucial. As they approached the station, the first signs of the council fleet appeared on their scanners. The ships were vast, towering in comparison to their small vessel. But Ray, Jarek, and Tom weren't afraid. They knew the stakes, and they knew what they had to do. Ray's voice was calm, but filled with authority as she spoke. "Greater than, we'll have to dock quickly and make our way to the station's core. That's where we'll find the rest of the free seekers." Tom nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the tension in the air, but also a strange sense of calm. He was no longer just a bystander. He was part of something much bigger. The bond with Ray had given him a purpose he hadn't known he needed, and now he was ready to fight for it. The ship docked at the station with a soft thud, and the three of them quickly disembarked, moving through the darkened corridors of the station with purpose. They didn't know how much time they had, but they were running out of it fast. As they made their way deeper into the station, the sounds of distant footsteps echoed through the halls. Ray led the way, her silver eyes scanning every corner for danger. Tom kept close behind, his mind focused on the task at hand. They couldn't afford to hesitate. Not now. When they reached the central chamber, the Free Seekers were waiting for them. But before they could make contact, the alarms on the station blared to life. The council was here. It was time. Tom knew that the final decision was upon them: fight for their future or be swept away by the power of the council. And with Ray by his side, he knew what he had to do.